But Brandon, this isn't the first time I've said this to a team, but given what you've taken out of the Mesa, why aren't we just digging?
So I'm going to bring up the high-speed video looking up into that Christmas tree drone formation.
That looks so cool.
Yeah, and there's some things that show up. I'm going to play it through.
Whoa. There's something falling right there.
I have never observed this, nor would I expect to be able to observe this. This was the strangest thing I've ever seen.
What if the most secretive signals in military communications weren't being sent, but rather they were being received? And what if the green slime oozing from deep beneath the Utah Mesa isn't just strange and inexplicable, but also alive? Welcome to Skinwalker Ranch, and more importantly, welcome to the latest installment of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch Season 6, Episode 2, titled The Drone Zone. This isn't just another episode. The revelations that were made at the end of this episode shook the very foundations of the beliefs that shape our understanding. The massive scientific shift is something that's gonna change the way we view otherworldly entities. Because if the evidence gathered here holds even a grain of truth, then we may be standing on the edge of a breach in reality itself. The Guardians of the Rift. The Navajo and Ute people have long feared these entities. Their stories have been passed down through generations in hushed whispers about shapeshifters, known as skinwalkers. But unlike Hollywood would have us believe skinwalkers to be these dramatic monsters, the native people know them as mysterious sentinels, guardians, and punishers. According to them, they are beings that are tied to thin places, that are known as the boundaries between worlds, the known and the unknown. While most of us have now started to dismiss these beliefs as legends, but what if the legends were never meant to be metaphors? Maybe these stories were our ancestors' way of describing something they didn't have words for. Something that they felt was always waiting, watching them and protecting them, like guardians. Beings that were alive at a planetary fault line in space-time, hiding something older than myth itself. That's the theory now as we start inching towards the center stage at Skinwalker Ranch. The drone experiment begins. To test the legends, the team didn't come in shouting about stories. Instead, they came in with science, ready to tackle whatever their expedition leads to. They were equipped with cutting-edge software, smoke trails, GPS-linked drones, 100 in a cone and 200 in a cylindrical tunnel. Everything was tested perfectly before launch. But the moment those drones entered the airspace above the triangle, that was when everything began to fall apart. They were suddenly facing GPS failure, altitude drops, inexplicable formation collapse. It was like an invisible force was pushing them back, not passively, but intelligently with full intent. This disruption wasn't due to the weather. It wasn't a bug either. This was clear resistance, as if the airspace itself said, not here, not now. The so-called bubble over the ranch, seen in prior laser scans, was no longer theoretical. It was pushing back on them, the dome beneath the earth. But their experiment wasn't just limited to the sky. Using ground-penetrating scans, the team made a shocking discovery, a smooth dome-like anomaly, 300 meters underground. It was too symmetrical, too perfectly curved. It was made of sandstone, and it definitely wasn't natural. It looked almost engineered. Could it be a chamber or a vault? Or was it something far stranger, a buried technological structure? Maybe ancient, maybe alien. The team had just started to ponder the possibilities when suddenly, as if to confirm the magnitude of this find, the sensors began to fail again. Their instruments started glitching and frequencies spiked unnaturally. And then, just like clockwork, something moved in the sky. The thermal drone footage. The thermal drone was the first to catch the movement, light streaking across the sky in patterns that made no sense. They couldn't detect any wings. There was no sound either. It was just a coordinated and intelligent movement. They flickered for a while, danced, and then disappeared. Each time the team got close to a breakthrough, the phenomena seemed to react, as if it was aware of the observation. This wasn't just paranormal activity, it was interactive, like the ranch itself knew it was being watched. And somewhere between the thermal signatures and sensor disruptions, the team realized something chilling. Skinwalker Ranch isn't just active, it's reactive, the green jelly. Then came the discovery that really shook them to the core and left them puzzled. High on the mesa, they inserted a snake camera deep into the rock strata. And there it was, a green jelly-like substance. It was bioluminescent, looked organic, and was embedded in the stone. It was weird, out of place, and definitely alien. It didn't belong there, and yet it was there. Lab tests confirmed the unimaginable. There were charcoal traces and burned organic material, possibly flesh, possibly plant, but exposed to immense heat miles below the surface.
And you see, not for the first time, but again, this anomalous green gel, possibly like substance. What do we make of that?
It looked like there might be a lot of this material scattered within that drill shaft. Is this just an isolated piece of this material here and there, or is it in fact integral to what we're drilling into?
Theories began to spiral. Could it be a crash or an explosion or a containment failure? Or could it be something even more disturbing, a living system buried in the rock? The time anomaly in the 1.6 GHz signal, as if on cue, there came another twist. A 1.6 GHz signal, which is used by military GPS and satellite telemetry, began broadcasting from inside the mesa. That's right, a protected, encrypted military band was suddenly bleeding out of a mountain, and every time it surged, devices near the mesa collapsed. GPS scrambled and beacons failed. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a targeted disruption. It was strategic and coordinated, as if something inside the mesa didn't want to be found. And then there was the time distortion. During an earlier rocket test, a quarter-second time loss was measured, a blip, but in physics, a monumental one. This wasn't a glitch. This was relativistic warping, time itself bending inside the ranch, a place that doesn't want to be measured. What kind of place fights back against measurement? What kind of place breaks drones, jams frequencies, and scrambles time? The answer is just some haunted location or some portal, or even a sentient system, but rather a place that uses electromagnetism, gravity, and quantum interference not to destroy, but to shield itself. What if Skinwalker Ranch is part of an ancient mechanism, something that's vast and specifically designed, hiding beneath layered folklore like camouflage? The drone zone, escalation, the drone formations failed twice, once in a cone, again in a tunnel. It wasn't a random coincidence that happened just once. To add to the lore, both the failures happened on the same spot in the sky, with even the malfunctions being the same. Not only that, but the UAPs appeared right as the formations fell apart, and the lights that hovered between the drones were responsive, aware, and timed. It was almost like watching a predator toy with their prey. What's more is that the 1.6 GHz signal, it spiked at the exact moment the drone telemetry collapsed. Everything was connected from the interference to the formation and the time anomalies. They were all wrapped around the triangle zone in the mesa. The data speaks for itself. Something there isn't just hiding, but it's also controlling the way we see it. Echoes in time. And now the theories are warping too. Some think it's some time loops. Some think there might be parallel timelines. And some believe that these happenings might be due to echoes of events replaying like a skipping record. One can't help but wonder about the alternatives. What if we're not watching visitors from other planets, but echoes from other dimensions? Because if the ranch is a thin place, then the green jelly, the buried dome, and the scrambled GPS might all be symptoms, and not just mere causes.
That is crazy. It's just stuck right there.
I'm almost out of communication here with it. I'm gonna try to get it home.
He lost all communication. He's bringing it home. Or it's bringing itself home.
The ancient system, even the discovery of the green substance, has left more questions than answers. What if it's not a remnant of damage, but rather a byproduct of function? Maybe it's some material used in stabilizing the bubble or some residue from interdimensional travel. Or the most terrifying theory, it could be the evidence of containment. Maybe something broke free once and the jelly is what's left of the seal that kept it locked inside. The Navajo Skinwalker legends may not be describing just the creatures. They may be describing whole systems that were ancient, intelligent, and biomechanical. The final revelation. By the time the drone zone ends, we're left with something more than a mystery. We're left with a hypothesis that has the power to alter our reality. Skinwalker Ranch may not be a haunted location. It may not even be of this world. It might be an interface, a node in a larger structure, buried not just under the mesa, but under reality itself. It could be something ancient, deliberate, and observing. Something that's watched us since before we had the tools to look back. Every drone test, every spike in electromagnetic radiation, every vanishing light in the sky may not be random. It might just be a response. After all, the ranch isn't asking for attention, but rather measuring it. And now that we're looking closer, it's looking right back. So what happens when the thing we're studying begins to study us? What if our experiments are triggering systems we don't understand? Or worse, waking them up? Skinwalker Ranch may no longer be a mystery. It may be a message, written in space-time, in electromagnetic scars and shifting frequencies. Maybe it was meant to convey a warning, or perhaps an invitation. But one thing that's for creation is, we're not just visitors on this land. We're participants in something far older than history and far bigger than science. If this episode blew your mind like it did ours, drop a comment below. Do you think the ranch is a portal, a machine, or something even darker? Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel because this mystery is just getting started. And something tells us the ranch already knows.